All right, we are ready to get started. Thanks everyone for coming. Welcome. Happy Tuesday night. We are going to get our meeting going, and let's start with roll call. So we have Trustee Schutz here and Trustee Coleman.
Here.
Hall is here, and Franz.
Here.
And then do we have Trustee Constant online? Do we know? No? Do we have Trustee Constant online? Not yet. Okay. We are going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Go ahead and stand up. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we just need a motion to amend or adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then item 2 is our board expectations, which Trustee Franz is going to read for us tonight.
Okay, good evening. Board expectations. Prepare all students for life, college, and career. High-quality academic opportunities for all students. Support student academic success. Engage in partnership with families and the community. The school is a welcoming, safe environment that serves as a center of student learning, activities, athletics, and performing arts. Promote a sense of community in our schools and the surrounding areas. Utilize effective governance and business practices. Remain open, transparent, and accountable to the community. Serve as an employer of choice with the highest quality teachers and staff.
All right, thank you. Then we'll move on to our board reports. So we'll do our normal order and start with Trustee Schutz and go down this way.
Well, hopefully everyone survived all the celebrations, graduations. Had the pleasure of going to Antelope High, and it was the weather great, right? We totally lucked out there, out on the field. It was such a party. It was so fun. Also, the adult school, really great experience there, hearing the stories from our adult students. And pleasure attended my own daughter's graduation in Oakmont. Just as a parent, I stayed in the audience and really enjoyed it and took it in. So thanks for all the administration there for accommodating me there. Other than that, I had over the weekend, the Roosevelt Carnegie Museum over off of Vernon and Old Town opened, especially on Saturday. It's normally open during the week for the Placer Heritage Trail that you can go around all different museums and check them off. But I was really pleasantly surprised to come across some great history from our high schools, particularly that whole display about Roosevelt High School. They had some Oakmont stuff, and they had a placard that had all of our history of all our schools. So check it out if you have a chance. A lot of great stuff there, and if you're into trains, they had a great model train set of our area too. It's fun. But other than that, hope everyone has a great summer.
Okay, so I was able to attend Wood Creek High's graduation and Roosevelt High's graduation, and of course both great celebrations and so well done. So that was a lot of fun. And I have 2 pictures to share tonight. First is me with my niece, Piper, at Roosevelt High's graduation. So I did not sit as an aunt in the audience. I was very much an aunt on the stage. She says I didn't embarrass her, but I really gave her a big hug, and that was really, really fun to be with her there at Roosevelt High School. And then after that, I'd just like to announce that last weekend my son got married, and so here's a picture of my son and his beautiful new bride. So I just feel like births and weddings are kind of big enough to share at the board report. So life is moving forward. Thanks for letting me share.
That is so cute. I love the wedding photo and the graduation photo. Yes, same. I was at graduations at Wood Creek with Tiffany, and then Oakmont for the first time ever. That one was amazing. I got teary-eyed with the doves being released. The weather was so impeccable, and I was kind of joking around because my son graduated last summer during the heat wave. I'm like, the class of 2026, like, you guys don't know what it's like to suffer through a burning hot, sweaty graduation. It was so beautiful. So big congratulations to all of the graduates. All the speeches were great, and I love how each campus just has such a unique graduation. Like, I figured in 6 years I'd kind of seen all of them, and then like, no, I haven't. So that was very special, and that's about it. Just running into you and Mr. Becker at a couple county events for Sierra Workforce Summit and different Placer Valley things, but that's about it. Enjoying summer.
I agree, but I appreciate how all of our schools are just a little different for graduation. And no one realizes that except for those of us that move around.
Yep.
I was able to give a hug to my daughter who graduated at Granite Bay High School, that quick 10 seconds. But I do not have a picture because I think she'd be embarrassed. I don't know. But no. But that's all I'll share tonight. But have a great summer.
All right, and
I
then
think we should acknowledge Mr. Hasty over here for his first time at the big kids table.
my gosh. You know what? And I looked right at you, and it just was so natural. It didn't even register
same
that
thing.
you weren't right there. Like,
And then
oh,
I did
yeah.
a double take, and I was like, wait, we need to acknowledge this.
He's at the big kid table. All right. On to our superintendent report.
Yeah, it's a couple things. First, and Heidi mentioned, Placer Valley 2026, and as well as Sierra Workforce Summit. And in both of those settings, especially the Placer Valley, which really talked about the economic success of our county, and throughout the whole opening remarks, they had videos, and then they had a keynote or a person speaking from the county. They kept talking about what makes the growth in Placer County happen and the economic boom in Placer County that's happening, and they kept tying it back to the education system, and they kept naming Roseville Joint. And a lot of that has to do with our dual enrollment CTE programs and internships. But in both of those settings, our district was named, and it was really cool to sit there and be a part of that, and really proud of the work of our staff out there and then our participating students. So it was nice to be recognized there. And then really cool on Saturday, I was at Roseville for their Northern California Division III championship. There's no state championship yet for baseball. That starts next year. So this was for Northern California, and Roseville beat Menlo School 4-2 to win that. It was really cool. Equally as fun was just seeing the environment out there. It was packed. I mean, the bleachers, shoulder to shoulder, everybody was crammed in. And then just to see the students and families throughout the outfield was even more cool. And then I'll give a special thank you because I've been thanked for it, but I want to thank Scott Davis for pushing back the parking lot work that was supposed to start last Monday, which would have made those 3 games at Roseville get pushed to Sierra College. And what's been really nice is I've had about 5 or 6 different emails from parents thanking us for that. So Scott, thank you for making that happen last minute. It really meant the world to the Roseville community and the baseball team to be able to play their 3 NorCal games at their field. And it really was a special environment to see a field that old have that many people, and the uniqueness to it really made that a really special event. And I met a guy, I forgot his name, but he played there in the 50s. And he was there watching the game, and it was really cool just to see that. But it was really, truly a Roseville High community event, and then congratulations to the team. And then they also jumped into the pool. So for their championship, they're like, hey, the superintendent's over there. Can we jump in the pool? I'm leaving. You do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But it was a great event. So congratulations to Roseville High Baseball.
Amazing. All right. Committee reports. I don't believe we have any. And then do we have an RSCA report tonight? Not tonight. Okay. We will move on then to our meeting protocols for tonight. The Board of Trustees encourages public participation during the meeting and requests civility and the use of courteous language. The board does not condone the use of profanity, vulgar language, gestures, or other inappropriate behavior, including personal attacks or threats directed towards any meeting participant and/or district employee. There will be an opportunity to speak to the Board of Trustees on items not on the agenda during the public comment section, as well as opportunities to speak to each item on the agenda when that item comes up for consideration. In the interest of facilitating the conduct of the public's business, members of the public who wish to address the board tonight will have time limits as follows. If there are less than 10 speakers, you will have 3 minutes per person. And if there are more than 10 members of the public wishing to speak on any single item, then it will be a 90-second time limit. A complaint about a specific employee or employees of the district should be made to that employee's immediate supervisor or the school site principal as outlined in our board policy and administrative regulation. Please complete the comment form located on the table in the lobby, and we will call on you when it is your turn to speak. This meeting is being audio and video recorded and will be archived, and the meeting is being live streamed for viewing only. Link to the live stream can be found at rjuhsd.us/livestream. And with that being said, it's time for public comment for items not on the agenda, and I don't have any speaker cards yet. Oh, and Pete is online. Hi, Pete, if you can hear us. And since we have one trustee, oh, wow. Oh, yeah, I see him right here. And then just so the other trustees are aware, because we have someone on Zoom tonight, all of our votes have to be done via roll call, the way we do consent. So just throwing that out there. And so I'm seeing no public comment at this time. Is that correct? Okay. We will move along then to our consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right, we have.
It is requested to be closer to the mic to hear.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. So we will do a roll call vote on that motion. Trustee Schutz?
Yes.
Trustee Coleman?
Yes.
Hall, yes. Franz?
Yes.
And Constant?
And just
Yes.
oh yeah, sorry about that, Brad, the feed. Just a quick comment on that.
No worries.
Just wanted to congratulate Trish Silva for becoming a permanent certificate teacher of the district. I'm not sure what school site she is at, but just want to say that that was part of our consent agenda, so congrats.
Oh, thank you. All right, let me do a quick scroll here to get to our next item. Okay, item 5, staff reports and informational items. This is going to be an update on our cell phone policy survey results presented by Dr. Dobson.
Good evening.
Hello.
We'll wait for that to be put up. There it is. Okay, I have, there's much more exciting presenters behind me. So I will try to go through this as quickly as possible. But basically the point of this information item is to review the stakeholder survey that was sent to parents, students, and staff regarding the cell phone current policy and potential interest in a bell-to-bell policy. So I wanted to go ahead and present each survey question with the results so you can get an idea of how our stakeholders feel about a current policy and a potential bell-to-bell. So let me move forward, maybe. Okay, starting with our board expectations. I always think it's good to ground us in our expectations. I know somebody said something last time at the last board meeting, maybe Tiffany. So yeah, just a reminder with why we are here, and it's preparing all students for life, college, and career. Also engaging with our families, and this survey definitely engaged with our families, our stakeholders, and then using our effective governance and business practices and remaining transparent. And I think that's apparent with this presentation and really looking at how our community feels about this particular topic. And I will say that there is a lot of feelings about this particular topic. We give surveys a lot in this district, and to give a survey in March, April, and to have this response shows you that people are interested in giving their feedback on this particular item. So overall, we had 6,721 survey participants. You can see it's broken down by students. Obviously, we have the most students that participated with this survey. I broke it down even further by grade level and by school. So you can look for, you can see kind of the 27% was the highest response from West Park students. And for staff, we had 525 responses, and parents over 1,500 responses on this particular survey. So I'll just go through each question. Some of the questions were asked to all 3 stakeholders, some were asked to 2 stakeholders, some were just asked to 1. So we'll kind of go through it, give you an idea of how everybody answered on this particular. So I combined strongly agree and agree, and I combined strongly disagree and disagree. And then the middle is just the neither neutral response. So our first question, I clearly understand the cell phone policy. So there's a high level of clarity among all the groups that were surveyed. The staff obviously has the highest level of understanding at 96%, followed by our parents, and then students at 86%. But overall, they're the lowest, though there's still a majority of the group that says that they understand the policy. Students adhere to the cell phone policy while in the classroom. This was asked of the students and the staff. So the majority agreement, there's a slight majority of both students and staff that they agree or strongly agree that students are adhering to the cell phone policy while they're in the classroom. And then you'll see that they're flip-flopped with neutral versus strongly agree or strongly disagree and disagree. So very similar in where they agree, about 57% on both sides are saying that it's strongly adhered to or it's adhered to within the classroom. The policy is enforced consistently across classrooms and staff. We asked this of parents too, because I know students talk to parents. So although parents are not sitting in classrooms and they can't actually tell you if it's enforced, I thought it was interesting to get their opinion on if they believed it was enforced based on what they're hearing from their own students. So now you can start seeing some differences in responses, and a lot of our upcoming questions, you'll see the same type of differences on opinion. So students strongly believe that enforcement is consistent. Thought that was very interesting. Almost 72% of our students say that the policy is actually consistently enforced within their classrooms. And then you'll see that the staff strongly feels that it's inconsistent, strongly disagree at 50.3%, disagree and strongly disagree. And parents are highly divided. About 50% agree that it's enforced, and then there's a big neutral party, and there's about a quarter that disagree. So kind of all over the place. The policy is effective and contributes to a focused learning environment and minimize disruptions. So I'll point out that staff and parents are aligned on this, with strongly agree and agree at about 69% for both of them. There's a mixed or lower support for students. Only 42% of the students agree or strongly agree that the policy is effective. I think based on their comments, it wasn't necessarily that it's effective, it's more that it contributes to a focused learning environment. I think if they had their preference, there would be no policy. So I think that's what they're trying to say to us at that, with 42% strongly agreeing and agreeing on that. This question was asked of students and parents. I am, or my student is, able to manage my or their cell phone and use it responsibly during school. So almost 91% of our students believe that they can do that. 75, so almost 76% of our parents believe that their child can do that. So strong on both groups are generally leaning towards the agreement that they can manage use while at school. Cell phone use in hallways during lunch or between classes causes behavioral incidents and negative mental health outcomes among students. This question was asked of students and staff, And again, you can see the major disagreement on how they answered this. So students, 83, almost about 84, 83% say that they disagree, strongly disagree with this statement. A lot of comments from students saying that they actually use their cell phone as a mental break. They listen to music in the hallways or at lunchtime. If they're feeling a little isolated or their friends are not around, they'll use their cell phone. But the students wrote a lot about that is not necessarily what's happening during passing periods and at lunch, that we aren't on our cell phones as much as the adults think we are. And then the staff, almost 50% of the staff strongly agree that it's causing behavioral incidents or negative mental health outcomes among students. And what was interesting is I talked to our principals about this question, and they were more along with the students. They said when we walk around at lunchtime, we're not seeing as much cell phone use as we used to see, that the kids really aren't on their cell phones, they're actually interacting more peer-to-peer. So that was an interesting take too, from a different group of adults. During lunch and passing periods, student interactions are more focused on cell phone, social media than face-to-face conversations. Again, you'll see the disagreement between staff and students. And this isn't unlike other surveys. Our Healthy Kids survey, there's a lot of discrepancy between how staff answers questions and how students say they feel and how they answer the questions. So staff sees this as an issue, with close to 50% agreeing or strongly agreeing that out-of-phone class leads to behavioral incidents and negative mental health outcomes. Students strongly disagree with that, and an overwhelming majority of the students believe that it's fine in what in their interactions, and it's not causing a problem. So it highlights a major perception gap between what the students are experiencing and what the staff feel that they're experiencing as well. And this is the question I talked to the principals about, that they are seeing more face-to-face interactions with students during passing period and lunch, that they are actually seeing kids not on their cell phones as much as they used to be in the past. Next question was asked of the students and their parents. So when I or my child has access to my or their cell phone during the school day, it increases the feelings of social anxiety or pressure. Again, substantial disagreement on this particular question with students and parents. Overwhelmingly, the students, almost 87% disagree or strongly disagree that the school day cell phone access increases their social anxiety or pressure. And parents are much more divided on this particular response. A quarter of the parents agree, and another quarter are neutral, and close to 50% strongly disagree that this leads to social anxiety or pressure. A bell-to-bell ban restricts cell phone use throughout the entire school day, including lunch, passing periods, and class time. Switching to a bell-to-bell ban would lead to significant improvements in students' grades, focus, and mental health. Once again, huge differences in how we are answering this. So students are almost entirely unified against the ban. Fewer than 6% believe a bell-to-bell would benefit their academic performance, focus, or their mental well-being. The staff is the most supportive group, about 60% agree. Parents, again, are divided. Strongly disagree and disagree is almost 50%, so parents were polarized in this, with this particular question. So again, we're seeing a major staff and student divide on this issue, and parent hesitancy in this particular question. If a bell-to-bell ban were implemented, I would be satisfied with school office phones as the sole means of communicating with my child during the school day. So almost 60% of our parents said no. They would not be satisfied with using just the school phones to communicate with their child. Then we dug a little deeper, same type of question, but if a bell-to-bell were implemented, I feel confident the school can communicate effectively during emergencies without student cell phone use. Again, about 50% of our parents said no, they would not feel comfortable. They strongly disagree on that. Close to almost 40% agree that they would be okay with that. We have received quite a few compliments in how we've changed our safety procedures and are able to communicate with our parents. So these numbers are a little better than the last question. And I can maybe say that's because people have a little bit more confidence in how we handle emergencies. Banning access to cell phones during the school day would negatively impact students' ability to access important resources like instructional tools, hall passes, schedules, communication, translation, safety, fill in the blank, all those things. Again, overwhelmingly, our students believe that a cell phone ban would negatively impact their ability to access critical daily resources. Those things obviously were named in student comments, but I did have a few students that wrote things like Sierra College classes require the two-factor so they have to actually have their cell phone to be able to get into their Sierra classes. So there were a lot of things that were brought up like that we use our cell phones throughout the day for many things, not just those that are listed. So parents, again, are divided, but leading towards agreement that more than half shared the students' concerns, agreeing that a ban would disrupt access to these tools. And the staff, again, holds the opposite views of the students, and nearly half the staff disagree or strongly disagree that the ban would hurt resources access or access to the resources. So students and parents on this question largely view the cell phones as essentially a logistical and practical tool that's needed throughout the school day, whereas the staff doesn't agree as much. So the last question on the survey is, which policy would you prefer? Let's just lay it out there. And I mean, I bet you guys are all shocked with this particular one. Student perspective and concerns, the current policy, almost 97%, say that they want the current policy to remain. There were over like 1,100 comments from students. And they were very interesting, and I can tell some of our students spent a long time trying to tell us why this is important to us. So I put the highlights. These are the highlights from the comments on this slide. I quoted some of them. This is unnecessary, ridiculous, and overkill, among many other words that were used in the comments. Many students warn of defiance, potentially leading to hostility and ineffective, since students who already break the rules are going to continue to break the rules. The major comments were safety and emergency concerns. The students want to be able to communicate immediately with their parents if there's something that's happening. Locking their phones away, or not letting me bring my phone creates more anxiety for me than being able to just not have my phone out during instruction. I can do that, but let me have my phone during the school day. Communication and logistics, that was brought up a lot. Talking to mom and dad during the school day. My mom texts me throughout the day. I answer her. She answers me. Coordinating rides, I need to go pick up my little brother. Mom texts me, I gotta go get my brother. I work, I'm 18 and I work. And I need to communicate with my boss. And baseball got changed. I didn't know the practice was changed. So all of those types of things, I didn't quote it, but it should be quote. But banning use during lunch is seen as it is restricting a vital life function. The students believe the current instruction-only restriction works well. It balances classroom focus with personal freedom during the non-learning times. And they again talked about how the phones are used as a tool for academics. They use it as a mental break. They use it as a stress relief during passing periods and lunch. And again, a lot of talk about it helps me feel less isolated. And I can understand that. As an adult, sometimes when I get to dinner first and I'm sitting in the booth by myself, I pull out my cell phone, right? And you're waiting for your guests to arrive, and it helps you feel a little less isolated. So that is basically the bottom line with the students. 97% feel that our current policy is working for them. Staff. A little more split here. So 51% of the staff, current policy, 49% bell to bell. So really the issue with the staff and the comments that were put in there was about enforcement and consistency. So the policy effectiveness relies on universal staff enforcement, and there's current inconsistencies, and there's the teacher that is always made to feel like the bad guy. I'm enforcing it in my class, and I know 2 doors down, they're not enforcing it, and every time the kids come to my class, I have to keep talking to them because it's just not, it's not consistent. And so that was a lot of the conversation that, or the comments that were given by the staff, is it's not enforced consistently throughout our campus. They'd like more consequences and backing from administration. We're limited on that, on what we can actually do. And they talked about, you know, it is taking away from instructional time to have to deal with this. Some of them did mention that it's a distraction. It impacts their mental health and their social interactions. A large amount of our teachers and staff that took the survey talked about the logistics of a full ban, that how would we even do this, that the only people out there during passing period and lunch are admin, and how would this even work with staff time? We need admin doing things that are beyond cell phone police. And then what they really want are clear expectations. Some of the teachers suggested the district standard on storage, that we all use caddies, whereas other teachers said, no, I don't want to use a caddy. It's fine to have them in their backpacks. We're good with that. And others need clarity on devices like AirPods and headphones and 504s and IEPs. So is this student allowed to use their cell phone because they have a 504 or an IEP? So more clear expectation, more consistency, more enforcement. Parents. Parents' perspectives and feedback, 72% would like to keep the current policy. 28% said bell to bell. Again, the major feedback from our parents was safety. So primary concern is the critical need to have that direct communication with my child. I want them to be able to reach me. I want to be able to reach them. There were quite a few parents that cited past incidents and the need to be able to have direct contact with their child. And if they didn't have their cell phone, I would not feel as reassured as I am knowing that I can get a hold of them at any time. Again, they talked about, parents actually talked about the enforcement. The current policy is widely supported, but it lacks consistent enforcement across all teachers. They believe uniform enforcement would help, and it would resolve the need of having a stricter ban. So the parents suggested, again, what a lot of the staff was suggesting, consistency of the policy of enforcement and effectiveness of that. Many of our parents pointed out that these are high school students, and this is not necessary for high school students. They understand. People wrote K-8, I understand cell phone bans. That makes sense to them, but many of the parents wrote that high schoolers are one step away from college. They need to learn self-management. They need to be responsible for their own cell phone use and the ownership. And if they get in trouble, they get in trouble. But they need to be able to learn how to manage it. But it's critical for managing their schedules, picking up little brothers and sisters, jobs, all of those things we've stated before. Some parents, on the other hand, believe that the constant phone access negatively impacts the student's mental health. So there were comments that were on that side, saying it does increase anxiety, it decreases focus, it prevents the development of face-to-face social skills, especially during lunch and passing periods. And I thought the individual medical needs box was interesting, because you would think, well, yes, if you have a medical need to use your cell phone, you're going to be allowed to use your cell phone. But there were some comments about, we don't want that because I don't want my child to be singled out. We still want students to be able to use their cell phones, because if my child has a medical need or an IEP or 504 that allows it, they're going to feel singled out, or they could potentially be harassed by staff. So it was interesting, parents were pointing that out, that we just want it to stay the way it is because we don't want a total ban on it. So these kind of highlight the comments that were made by all the groups. And based on that, our next steps is we'd like to go ahead and continue to maintain the current cell phone policy. We are only 1 year into this policy. And when I speak with our principals, they are quick to come back to me that it has made a big difference at their site. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. There's a lot of things that I'd like to do, and so we need to improve consistent district-wide enforcement. We need to make sure all of the students understand the expectations. We are at 86%, which is high, but I would hope 100% of our kids would know when and when they cannot use their cell phones. We need clear parent communication of the policy, infractions, and consequences, and we need to make sure parents are on board with support, because we did have some kids that continuously violated the policy. So we need to make sure our parents understand that if you're going to continuously violate the policy, then these are the things we need from you as a parent. We need to revisit the policy expectations with administration, which we've already begun. We started talking about this at our last principal meeting. The principals were given their particular survey results from their school so they can see the exact comments that their parents made, their students made, and their staff made. And they can tell, this was overall data, but some of our site data is a lot different based on maybe how some schools are a little further along in having this policy in place, and so teachers are a little more like, okay, this can work. Where other schools, they're not, and so maybe it needs to be revisited and consistency needs to be improved. I think it's important for the site to have discussion about their survey results. They need to look at the positives, the negatives, the growth areas, really look at the differences between what the staff says and what the students say. That's valuable information right there, to be that different. When students are going from class to class and 75% of the students are saying, yeah, my teachers are enforcing this, 72%, where staff says only, no, 23% of the staff's doing it. But honestly, if I'm teaching all day in my classroom, how do I know that? Right? So really getting our administrators, like when you're walking through classrooms, and again, that's questions I ask our administrators all the time. When you're walking through the classrooms, is this a problem? And majority of our administrators are saying, no, I see it here and there, but for the most part, it's so much better than what it used to be because we have the policy in place. So again, I think we need to go back to some more staff training, tracking the infractions in areas so it's clear, so we can have clear data of the infractions and the expected consequences. Clear guidance for our teachers on devices, the other devices like AirPods and accommodations for our students. And then we did do some data review. We brought that to you, I think, at the beginning of the school year. We gave you a little bit of data, but continuing with our administrators looking at our data of infractions and repeat offenders and continuing to tighten up as much as we can. So that is the end, and I don't know why this doesn't want to move. There we go.
All right, well, thank you. That was awesome. I love these beautiful surveys, and I think that's interesting that, some of the differences, and they make sense, teachers are going to have one perspective, parents, kids. I'm the parent who has a student athlete and then a student who has a job. So all of those things are true. We have the Remind app for sports. My sophomore, almost junior, needs to be able to log in to check his work schedule or update or grab a shift. And so to me, unless we're going to ask the whole rest of the world to also ban their phones, it's handcuffing them a bit to not be able to keep up with all of the ways that everyone else is communicating. So to me, it makes sense doing it the way we're doing. one question I have, and I'm trying to formulate how we would put this in a survey, and I don't know, but I was curious because those kids in K through 8 are having the cell phone ban. Like, has it been easier for those freshmen coming in versus, say, our seniors right now? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and the data is, we need to work on having clean data. But from what we could pull out, the freshman offenses are lower. The worst offenders are our sophomores. So
Oh, okay. It was my sophomore who
Yeah.
got a violation.
our
having
seniors,
our
I think our seniors are to the point where they get it. So seniors have like the least infractions,
Okay.
or maybe they're in senior classes where it's, you know, a little more laid back. And so the seniors have the least amount of offenses. And then if I remember correctly, I believe it was sophomores, juniors, freshmen.
Okay.
So when freshmen come in now, this is a privilege, you know,
Sure.
you are able to have your phone out during passing period and lunchtime, but you're still living with the expectation that when you're in my class, the phone is put away, and you should be used to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, it seems like it's going well. I've had a high school intern and a college intern, and, you know, to your point, part of going out into the real world and having a job is being able to manage your cell phone use. And they've been great. Like, I've never once had to tell one of them, hey, put your phone away. You know, they get it. So anyway. Oh, Pete has his hand. Oh, look at that. Your hand is an emoji, Pete.
I guess that means I can speak. Thanks.
Yes.
Well, first, Mel, I want to say thanks for the survey results. They're informative, and I do want to remind everyone, though, that the survey that we take is all based on perceptions of individuals, and it's really tough to make policy decisions simply based on perceptions. But when we have evidence really helps us make decisions. And the evidence we have is the direct observations from our site administrators that have been telling us that the cell phone policy that we have in place is working, it's effective, and that we are much better than we have been in the past prior to the policy. And I think that's how we should be continuing to maintain our policy based on that evidence. I know that there's a lot of controversy over whether a bell-to-bell ban is effective or not. I know I've taken the time to go through the academic literature on it, and the results, quite frankly, are split on whether there are significant improvements. So for that, I personally think that pursuing a bell-to-bell schedule is a solution in search of a problem. And I think that we have a policy that works, and we should stick with that as we go forward. And I know there are those parents that have concerns about their child's anxieties. And that's the beauty of being a parent. Those parents have the ability to set limits with their own children, be parents. They have the ability to adjust how their students, how their children use or don't use cell phones, whether they have access to them or not. And that's really a parental decision at that point. So I'll just leave my comments there. But again, Mel, thanks for all the work. I know you've been working on this for a long time, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Pete.
Questions?
I definitely have some comments. So similar to Pete and Heidi, and I'm sure Marla and Bill, just thank you so much for the time that you have given to this, for this follow-up. This is a particular topic that is important to me. I really spoke about this last year and again in the fall, and I feel that it's a very important topic for us to be covering. So I appreciate the attention that you've given to this and for the board to allow to be given to this. I was really excited for the number of responses. Like you said, the number indicates that people are interested in this. This is a topic that's important to a lot of people. So I was really happy to see that. I want to make 2 points tonight. First, the importance of the consistent compliance with our current instructional time policy. And then second, I would like to continue to just put in, just say I think we need to continue the conversation. I'm not asking that we change the policy at this time, but I believe further education about a bell-to-bell policy, it's not something we should just shut the door on. We've had the survey, it works, we're done. but continue as we see continuing data come in. As Pete said, that the evidence that comes in, that's important. And there's a lot actually around the world right now because that's happening all around the world. So there's more evidence coming in all the time. So first of all, I just wanted to express, as you have, that the instructional time policy has been very effective in our classrooms and for our classroom experience, and I am very grateful for that. I visited each school site this year, and I asked every principal specifically about the instructional time policy and how it was going. And principals reported increased student engagement, improved classroom behavior, fewer distractions, and stronger student-to-student interaction, including outside of the classroom. I heard descriptions such as amazing, night and day difference, a game changer, and it's been magic. That says a lot about this instructional time policy. The principals reported improvements in productivity, classroom engagement, attendance in class. There was less wandering around during class times because students weren't able to reach out to their friends and make a plan to meet each other out in the bathroom or somewhere else. And there was reduced issues related to social media such as vape and drug sales that take place like through Snapchat. So I want to again thank you and each of our sites for implementing this policy this past year. It's really making a meaningful difference in our classrooms and I believe with our students. I do believe it's important to connect this conversation to student wellness. You shared in the Friday update, which I was so happy about, the wellness center data from the 25-26 school year. And I thought that was excellent, and I appreciate the effort that went into gathering that and sharing it. Last year, there were approximately 600 referrals to the Wellness Center and more than 21,000 visits to our Wellness Center. Across staff, parent, and student referrals, the most common reasons for a referral were anxiety, stress, depression, and emotional regulation. So this is evidence and data points that deserve our attention. There's a growing body of research examining the effects of phones and social media. And when I say phones, that's such a broad term, but it's really any internet-connected device. But the effects of phones and social media on adolescent mental health. One widely discussed source is Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, which I brought tonight. And I know this is only one of many, many sources, but I highly recommend this for parents and educators or anybody working with children. It's very, very informative and instructive. These research do show that anxiety, stress, and emotional regulation are connected to social media. That is a reality. And when we see anxiety, stress, and emotional regulation consistently showing up as top concerns for students being referred to the Wellness Center, I think we need to take note. What role do phones and social media play in these trends, and how can we best support our students? I know that we don't have all of the answers, and again, I'm not looking to change policy tonight, but I strongly believe the research supports continuing this conversation and helping educate both parents and students. There's an idea attributed to Ronald Reagan that sometimes when the survey or the polls don't come back the way you think they should, or regarding a policy that you think is important, maybe the thing to do is educate the public about why you think it's important and why it's necessary. I want to acknowledge the concerns raised by parents and students in the survey, specifically about their need to access their phone in case of an emergency. Those concerns are understandable. Again, research shows that having a phone during emergencies actually increases the, it doesn't increase safety, it decreases safety. As with phone, students are distracted in filming or texting their parents or calling, spreading misinformation, which can be harmful for responders as they are trying to address the situation, and congestion can come caused by parents rushing to campus. And we've actually seen that. On one of our campuses, West Park, it was over a year ago, there wasn't even an emergency, but students thought there was an emergency and they reached out to their parents, and several parents came to campus. As you pointed out, our district has established communication systems designed to provide accurate and consistent information during emergencies. And your team has done an exceptional job of that. And I think that's built a lot of trust with our parent groups, and I appreciate that. Every decision we make involves trade-offs. And while emergency communication concerns are understandable, we should also consider the daily impact that phones and social media have on student learning, attention, and well-being. Emergency situations are very few and far between, and probably unlikely, though we should absolutely prepare for them. But the day-to-day effect of phones and social media use is something that it's a trade-off. We have to decide if it's more important to feel comfortable that we can communicate with our students, or actually make our students more comfortable by having them in a safe situation during an emergency. So again, I applaud the initial steps with our phone policy. Like you said, there's always room for improvement, and you've really identified some key areas. I'm excited to see how it continues to impact our schools for good. And as we prepare to enter the new school year in August, I'd just like to say that I expect our staff to be consistent and to be vigilant and to be compliant with this instructional time policy. I expect that as a board member, and I expect it as a parent in every classroom. So at the same time, I just want to reiterate, I don't think this discussion is over. I don't think it's a one and done. We've talked about it. Now that's done, let's move forward. Where would we be in this world if that were the case? We need to keep talking about important topics and issues. We should continue educating ourselves, listening to stakeholders, educating our stakeholders, and reviewing the research and evaluating whether additional steps, including a potential bell-to-bell approach, could further support student learning and wellness. Those are my thoughts. Thank you so much.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that information. I appreciate you highlighting the wellness centers and the important role they play in our campuses. One thing, because we went to Oakmont and we had the pilot program before we rolled it out district. Were we the only school? Was Oakmont the only school, or was another school as well? Remind me.
Last year,
Or the
everybody
pilot,
started 25, 26, everyone rolled
yeah, but
it out.
the pilot before that.
Oakmont and Pathways
Okay.
piloted last year.
So I'm curious whether the feedback you got from, say, Oakmont, who have lived with that policy really a year longer than everybody else, if anything stuck out as being different, as like the feedback you got from students, teachers, that kind of thing.
Honestly, I looked at just district-wide policy.
Okay.
I gave each principal their own
Okay.
data so that we could get that information from Mark and get it to
Okay.
you.
Yeah, I'd be curious because I was on school site council when we were rolling through that policy, and we had reports from students who were on school site council, comment on how, real-time experience, how they appreciated it or didn't. And then we also got reports about, discipline, and most students, and I think the reality is most students are following it, and we don't have to resort to those, you can't bring your phone to school ever, kind of thing. So anyways, all that, appreciate the info, and thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a few things. Thank you so much. I thought the numbers were so interesting, especially the disparities between staff and parents, and it was fascinating. Thank you for bringing up, and actually Bill mentioned, I was thinking also the school breakdown, but I didn't want you to throw any schools under the bus, so I appreciate that you've given the principals information, because it would, I did wonder if the breakdowns were, the numbers were even across all schools, and you said they were not. So
They're a little different.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that would be interesting too, but we don't need to go into that detail. What are the consequences to students for having phones out when they shouldn't?
Right. So it's a K violation.
Okay, what does that mean?
K is
I don't have a student, so
so it's an ed code violation under 48900K. So our hands are tied, really,
okay.
when it comes to K. And so it is frustrating for the schools at times if we have a repeat offender over and over again. But detentions, taking the phone away,
okay.
you cannot suspend over K. So when you, like, if
I
you
wouldn't
Google.
think we should, but
Yeah.
okay.
There are no suspensions under K in California. So if you Google, you know, are students getting, or consequences of cell phone violations, suspensions come up, but that's different states. So depending on the state and their ed code, but our California ed code under K is no suspensions.
So when teachers are saying we are not handling the enforcement equally across different classrooms, they're saying some students aren't getting detention like they think they should. I mean, so that's kind of a big deal.
I think it's a lot of education with teachers too. I think our teachers get frustrated because of the limits.
Okay.
So there are some that want stricter consequences. Again, there's only so much we can do.
Okay.
And there are some teachers that get frustrated and say, well, we should be suspending students who are continuously violating this policy. Again, it's going back to the relationships. I know, like, going back to Oakmont, Mark would call parents as the principal. Let's have a conversation where this keeps happening with your child. Can we fix this and have a relationship with that parent to try to stop the violations with that student? So it takes a lot of time.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. That makes it challenging.
Does.
So,
Yes.
okay. And then, and I appreciate all of the information you just shared, and I think every adult and probably some kids would acknowledge the mental health challenge with phones and the excessive use. I know I just said many months ago about the phone-free Friday. You know, I'm kind of wondering if there are more fun ways that we can try to raise awareness that wouldn't just be a shocking bell-to-bell policy. And I remember, and I don't know what month, but you put in one of our weekly updates, Wood Creek putting in some kind of a contest for the lowest number of screen time hours. You may not even remember
Okay.
this. This might have been fall.
It might have been under the wellness, out of wellness
It was
center.
under the wellness.
Okay, yeah.
And it was just, you know, Wood Creek doing a fun contest about who can have the lowest number of hours or minutes. And I just wonder if maybe that's an approach that we could also take if we're so concerned about the anxiety and just
Yeah,
what phones
definitely.
are doing. And so I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Good suggestion.
I'll just build on that just briefly. I love that idea too of being positive about it, and I think that it's educating, as we've done in some other areas, just helping educate students, helping educate parents, have the conversation and think, so that I think the ultimate goal is for people to be able to critically think for themselves and make wise decisions for themselves. At the same time, we also know it's hard to make a wise decision when you're addicted to something. It's hard to stop that thing. But I like the idea of that positive education.
Thank you. That was very informative. We appreciate all the information and the time that all of that takes.
Thank you much.
So, all right. Well, you got a round of applause, Melanie. Okay, moving on to item 5.2. Portrait of a Learner in an AI-Driven Economy. And it looks like Dr. Kuros is coming up for this one.
Okay, thank you. Well, good evening, Board President Hall and members of our trustees. Tonight, I have the honor of presenting to you with our brilliant design council right here to your left, our right of our Board of Education room, comprised of students, teachers, administrators, Board of Education trustees who have joined us, our completed portrait of a learner. It's really exciting work. A portrait of a learner is a community's shared description of the skills, qualities, and mindsets that it wants every student to have by the time they graduate. It puts into common words who you're helping students to become, not just what they should know, but how they think what they stand for, and how they work with others. So in partnership with our community, we've come together to co-design and co-construct this portrait for the last 5 months. But before I go further, I do want to honor and thank the students. Not all of our student leaders were able to make it this evening. Our teachers, who served on the design council, not all of our teachers were able to make it this evening as well. Our staff, our administrators, who sat on the design council and who supported the authorship of this portrait, as well as the work of this portrait. And also I'd like to acknowledge and thank Dr. Saba Kidwai, our researcher and facilitator of our Portrait of a Learner work. And Dr. Kidwai will have to leave in 15 minutes. She has a flight to catch to go back to Southern California, so excuse us if she leaves a little bit earlier. And last but not certainly least, I also want to honor and thank our superintendent, Superintendent Becker. Thank you so much for championing our innovative work around building a portrait of a learner. You all should know that it's your superintendent who have really pushed that staff dive into the work of how to guide the use of AI responsibly so that our students remain competitive and employable in a rapidly evolving world. So thank you, Superintendent Becker, for your championship. So tonight we share with you our portrait of a learner. It's a shared picture, again, of who a Roseville graduate is becoming. And I want to be clear from the start, we did this not in isolation, not in one office, but with our community. So we have built it with over 1,100 students, families, and staff's voices across all 8 of our schools. So let me just walk this through our slides, and then I do want you to know that I'm just simply introducing. The real fun part is our students. They will come up and present the remaining of the slides. So why a portrait? So the world, as we have shared earlier, is changing. Our students are walking into a changing world faster than anything we've seen in our careers. And in a moment like this, the line between teacher and learners get blurry. All of us, students and adults, we're all learning. We're all learning together in this rapidly evolving world. So a portrait gives us shared words for who we're trying to become so we can face what's coming together instead of each of us figuring it out alone. Here's the idea that ties tonight together. As AI gets better at doing the task, the human qualities behind the task must matter more than anything and not less. So let me repeat that. As AI gets better at doing the task, the human qualities behind the task must matter more and not less. And that is exactly what we've designed for you. And the most important thing about this work is, again, as I said, we didn't do this in isolation. We wrote it with our community. So why do this now? Because our students are already caught in a contradiction. Look at these 2 numbers right in front of you. They're both 66%. Inside schools, 66% of our educators worry that AI lets students cut corners, that it gets in the way of the very thinking school is supposed to build. However, outside of our schools, 66% of our workforce leaders, our employers, say they would not hire someone who could not use these very same AI tools. Same technology, it looks like a threat in one room, a requirement in the other room, and our students are living in both rooms all at once. So the portrait gives them the judgment, one of our very first durable skill, to handle that, to use these tools well without handing over their own critical thinking. And so with that, let me turn over to the true stars of our evening this evening, and it's turn over to JC, a future UCLA Bruin who just graduated from Wood Creek last week. And so JC.
Thank you, Dr. Caros. It's great to be here, and thank you, board, for having us. Next slide, please. All right, so part of making the profile is obviously, like Dr. Caros said, getting community input. And so to do that, we did our survey, which included students, families, and staff from our Roseville community. Next slide, please. So in total, we got 1,104 responses from across the community, 626 families, that was our largest input, 402 students, 72 staff, and across the entire district, we had responses from all 8 schools. Next slide, please. And so, like I said, every part of the community had a voice. Dr. Caros really emphasized on that. So we heard from families, students, and staff. And even leadership too. If we look at the bottom, we had 4 inputs from leadership, including cabinet and site leaders, who are setting the direction of our district. Families, once again, were the largest voice. That included parents and guardians, not just parents alone. Students, obviously, the ones who are the very learners, the ones graduating from our district, and then staff. Next slide, please. So in the survey, we asked the community members to list which skills they thought were most important for a Roseville graduate to have. And so looking at the data, we have critical thinking was the most listed essential skill that the entire community thought was very important. And then we had communication, integrity, and transparency, which with AI, we know like a lot of adults think that a big part of AI is cheating. And so integrity and transparency clearly plays a big role in that. Collaboration, agency, and then using AI wisely. And to clarify an agency, a big part of our design council was defining what agency means, which we defined as basically one individual having the freedom and the opportunity to make their own decisions, choose which path they want to go on. And one thing about this is, obviously our entire survey is about AI. And I think it's safe to say that the conception that a lot of people have is that with AI, all of these essential skills will be disappearing or less essential. And I would argue that that's not going to happen. And if anything, I think some of these skills can even flourish even more under AI. And so to bring in my own personal experience with that, as a graduated senior from Wood Creek this fall and this winter, you know, I had to navigate the entire college application process. And one thing I noticed pretty quick throughout that process is that each college wants something different in their applicants. Not every single college just wants a smart student. They look for something specific. And so using AI, I asked AI, like, which qualities each college looks for in particular. So for example, when I applied to Johns Hopkins, I wrote about curiosity specifically because AI said that that's the quality that Johns Hopkins really looked for in their applicants. In the UC system, that was seeing which applicants had the largest impact on their community and how they showed that impact. And then, for example, for like NYU, it was bridge builders, people who could connect ideas and people, even if those ideas were very contradictory or conflicting. So every single college that I applied to had different qualities that they wanted to see in their applicants. And these qualities aren't something very like set in stone. It's not like I can go on the website for these colleges and just look up like which qualities do you want to see in your applicants. It's something very subjective that's shown in the way that the colleges interact with their students and their communities. It's not something that you can pick out immediately. So that's why I used AI for that. It was very helpful. But then I also wrote these college essays on my own still. Once I learned what qualities each college wanted in their applicants, it was still me who chose which experience to write about, how to write it. It was me writing the actual essay. And then once I had that essay written, I would copy and paste it into AI and ask for feedback on if I showed that quality well enough, how I could continue showing that quality, like how I could continue developing that idea of that quality that the college wants, but in my own experience and in my essay. So at the end of the day, even with using AI, I was still able to, for example, critically think and use my own agency. I was still able to critically think about my own experiences and choose which one tied in with the quality that each college wanted. I was still able to use my own agency because it was my own experiences that I was writing about. It was my own writing at the end of the day. And so I think all of these skills, like our community has shown, we find them all essential, but just because of AI, it's not necessarily going to disappear or become lesser just because AI is prevalent. And so I hope that's something that, you know, a lot of people can try and pivot their minds around. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sammy. Thank you.
Thank you, JC, and thank you, Board of Trustees, for having us today. So one thing that we looked at among these skills is critical thinking. It's being the highest rated among not only families, but staff and students. However, when we look at it, critical thinking is also looked at as one of the most under attack. People think AI will damage the critical thinking of students. They won't be able to have their own thoughts. They'll lose their own voice, not only from writing, but from speaking. However, as JC just explained, a lot of the times it's opposite. AI can be used to further that student's voice, to get their voice, their thoughts out there, to develop themselves as a writer, as many students like myself and others have done. But also going on to communication. In a growing set of working with AI, communication and having a student's voice is one of the most important things. Being able to talk one-on-one. In a world where AI is building on those skills, character skills are becoming one of the most important focus for schools nowadays. Being able to not only work with others on a group project, but having that ability to take that leadership role is one of the most important things that not only families and staff above, but students follow mainly as well. And next we go into using AI wisely, which is one of the things that the community needs to see growth in. Learning how to use AI on what tools I need. Where do I use it? When is it going to be giving me the wrong material, and when do I need to use my own voice is one of the most important things to have. Not only to prepare students for the workforce on when students in the workforce need to know how to use AI, but also just in their daily life. How can I use it to make myself more effective? For me, it was like when I don't have time to do an assignment, when I don't have time to make flashcards because I have a job, I have other clubs to attend to, I use AI. AI makes me flashcards, AI makes me practice tests. AI can help those students flourish when they are lacking those abilities. Next slide, please. One of the many mentions that we had was AI being a tool, not a crutch. Students need to learn how to use AI not to inhibit their thinking, as I mentioned, but to further their voice, in order to get that feedback, in order to learn where they need to develop their skills, in order to build onto that thinking. We don't want AI to at all replace that human factor in voices at all. That will always be there. That will always be the backbone within our society. The human mind is always going to stay in charge, yet AI can only just help build, help bring together, and then just make our students better. However, to defeat that stigma around critical thinking being diminished by AI, it takes integrity and honesty for students to know, I use AI here, I know how it helped me, and I can able to tell that without thinking I'm cheating. I'm not being lazy. I'm doing the right thing and I'm being effective. But it also comes on both ends. Teachers being able to know, I use AI to develop your lesson plan. I use AI to give you feedback on an essay. It comes from both ends to know that, hey, AI is not something that's hurting us. It's something that's helping us. And then as I mentioned earlier, we also need to verify accuracy. There's so many biases within AI, from confirmation to AI giving you the wrong math answer, the wrong equation. That's why it's so important for students to learn in school how to verify that AI. For students to then be able to check, know, is this AI actually giving me the right material? Being able to fact check and cite your sources more effectively with AI is one of the most important things. Next slide. Here's some quotes that you had gathered from our meetings. So the first one, I want to grow as a person, not grow the capabilities of an AI. As I mentioned, character skills are becoming one of the main focuses within schools nowadays with AI. Students, as many of us, don't want AI to replace us. We want to use AI, and not for growing it, just for the future, but as growing ourselves. We want to be able to talk with others. We want to be able to not only just talk with AI, but know where to effectively use it. Next thing we said was, I want AI to withhold the answer and make me go through the steps. Many students like myself don't want AI to just, hey, spit out me a whole entire essay. We say, AI, can you give me a little bit of brainstorming? Help me find some sources. Which sources are the best? Give me the pathway, and then I can find my own steps in order to get to the answer. We don't want AI to replace us. We don't want it to diminish our own thinking, as I said. We want it to just help guide us, be that tool that I mentioned. And then as the final quote, I want AI to be the tool, not a weapon in my learning, and to build confidence in my own thinking. As I've personally done, AI has helped me gain feedback on my own essays. It's helped me build my voice as a writer. It's helped me build my voice learning Spanish, speaking to it in a different language. It's helped me gain so many ideas that it'll just give me the brainstorm, and I'm like, thank you. It's able to just help me guide that to that point where I'm getting the answers that I know I can get to while being more effective and taking less time that I may not have at some points. Next slide, please. So here's the steps that it started with. First, starting with empathy. Ask what a Roseville graduate needs to thrive in a world being reshaped by AI. Not only does it take that preparation to know where to use AI, students need to know how to use it, where to get the right tools, and when to use them, but also how to communicate with AI and how to properly articulate your own voice within the AI and not be replaced. Next, we have name the qualities. So surface the characteristics that matter the most in the community's own words. You will be presented those characteristics later by my peers, and then later we also drafted the language with a first round of statements, then revising towards words that everyone can stand behind, building that common ground, that accessibility for all of us to gather behind, and then build that common ground for students, all learners, to use AI as one of the most important things. And then testing against real life. So checking each statement against real life scenarios was one of the, not only the funnest parts, but it was one of the most important, as making sure it spoke to every learner. Not only does it speak to students, it speaks to teachers, but it speaks to an admin, that everyone is being able to use AI. Everyone is a learner. Everyone is being able to learn how to use it. Everyone is using it properly, with integrity, with transparency, how I use it and how it made me more effective. And now I'd like to pass it on to one of my peers, Atticus.
Thank you, Sammy, and thank you, Board of Trustees, for having us tonight. So you just heard what the community said, what parents said, and what the data said. But what does that mean for our goals of the Roseville learner? Next slide, please. So we defined the 3 ways every Roseville learner grows. They grow within themselves, they grow within others, and they grow within the world and their community. And in order to kind of take these really abstract concepts of how people grow, we took them into 2 key words, kind of as almost categories or standards we can judge the growth. Next slide, please. So for a Roseville learner's relationship with themselves, judgment and integrity. Every Roseville learner should be able to determine what is true and then evaluate it with an open mind. Be able to take sources, like as you said, we should always look at everything around us and take those sources and judge it with an open mind. Weighing colleagues' views against us in college, if we're in academia, it's a vital skill that every Roseville learner should know. Just as with integrity, knowing what you stand for and then speaking by it, being able to stand by your word. And what does this look like with AI? Well, a Roseville learner who grows in these ways, they should be able to question AI's answers before they use it, judge it, and be able to fact check it so they're using it ethically and correctly, while also being honest about how they use it, having integrity within AI. Next slide, please. Now for the relationship with others. It's categorized within communication and collaboration. They're really similar words, but there's really a lot of nuance we discovered in our council. So communication, we talked about specifically how it is listening first, and then it is being able to speak and voice your opinions to other people in respectful manners, something every Roseville learner should do. And collaboration, it's not just building together, not just working on a group project, but it's also being able to go up and help others build too. And what this looks like with artificial intelligence is being able to say what you actually need from it, being able to use it effectively, quickly, and properly, while also when collaborating with it, you use it as a teammate. It's your assistant. It is not the whole team. Next slide, please. And finally, every Roseville learner's relationship with the world. And that's advocacy and resourcefulness. Our voice is our power, and every Roseville learner should know that and know how to use their voice. And that goes hand in hand with resourcefulness. Every Roseville learner should know the resources they have in their communities, the resources they have in their relationships, and especially the resources they have in their schools now and in college, and know how to use them. And what that looks like with artificial intelligence is using it to amplify your voice, being able to do things that previously were impossible, while also using it as a resource. And before I pass it on, I want to talk about a personal anecdote when using AI to open doors that were previously impossible. I'm a student at West Park High School, and we have PLTW engineering courses. This last semester, I took Engineering 2, which is Principles of Engineering, sorry. And our second to final project is a month-long marble sorting machine. And what this machine does is you dump a lot of marbles in a funnel, it rolls by some sensors, and it sorts it in a cup. It's a really simple concept, but it gets really complicated. And what our instructor told us at the start of this project is he told us two things he thought were impossible. We could not build a funnel that wouldn't jam without some sort of agitator, and the sensors were not sensitive enough to detect a marble just rolling by without stopping it. So what I did is I built a machine that can do both. I used deep research tools in order to find old research papers on industrial agricultural funnels, and eventually that led me to finding certain designs that other people previously made that I can adapt to marbles instead of grain in order to develop a funnel that didn't jam. Then I wrote about 200 lines of my own code before working with Claude Code and then developing 600 more lines in order to make those sensors work. Two things in his 20 years of teaching that he thought were impossible, but AI opened those doors for it as I treated it as a teammate and I collaborated with it and used it as a resource to amplify my own voice. I'll let you pass it on.
Thank you so much, Atticus, and good evening, board. Thank you so much for your time. So Atticus just talked about 6 defining characteristics that we want to see in our Roseville learners in an age with or without AI. But really there's one defining characteristic that ties all of these things together. JC brought it up, and that's agency. And agency is the human ability to shape ourselves and to govern our thinking. And so we want Roseville learners, whether, as Dr. Crow said, whether we're students, we're teachers, we're parents, administrators, we want those learners to develop agency. Next slide, please. And so that was one of the big focuses of designing a graduate profile, is looking at what agency meant and what we needed to do to help instill agency. And so we took a little bit of a 2-step approach to that. We said, what does agency look with other people, and what does agency look like with AI? And there are lots of parallels. So we'll take judgment, for instance. Judgment with other people might involve listening to lots of different viewpoints and deciding for yourself who you trust and what you think is true. Judgment with an AI is very similar because AI tools are by no means infallible. So with an AI tool, a large language model, you might take the text it gives you and judge, is this true? Is there misinformation here? And what can I trust? But in both of those things, whether you're interacting with other humans or some sort of AI tool, at the root of those interactions is your own agency. And that's something we wanted to emphasize in every interaction. Next slide, please. And that's why we developed what we call a human AI human pipeline. So it's undeniable that AI is an incredible tool. It can write songs, it can check for grammatical errors in your essay, it can even have conversations with you. But if you're using AI as a tool to help you do the heavy lifting, it requires your human agency to use AI in the correct manner, and that starts with you. So let's imagine, for instance, a teacher using AI to consolidate her lesson plans. For instance, maybe previously a 5-day plan that now they need to get done in 3. While AI might end up doing the heavy lifting of actually developing the plan, it starts with the teacher themselves as the impetus to decide what's their problem, what would be the desired end result, and whether they want to use AI in the first place to achieve that goal. And then after they use AI, the human comes in again to decide, judge the AI's result, as Atticus was saying, judge it, decide for themselves whether they want to use that result, and work consistently with AI to make sure their final product reflects their own agency. And that's helping us if we're using AI in any manner, because AI is a tool just like any other. So when we use AI, deciding at the start what we want to come of it and judging at the end how the result reflects with our own thoughts, it helps us maintain agency even if we're using this other tool. And so I'm not a perfect user of AI by any means. I'm still working on how to use AI to develop my own agency. But something that this design council really helped me see is how to use AI in a way that doesn't corrupt my own agency, but actually benefits my agency as a learner. I think it really goes back to what Sammy mentioned, saying AI is not a crutch, it's a tool. So, for example, I remember in our chemistry class, our teacher gave us a sheet with all the material that was going to be on the final. But I don't really like memorizing the material by rote. I prefer practice tests and practice quizzes. So I put all of that material into ChatGPT, and I said, give me a 50-question multiple choice test. It did. It was amazing. And what's really so fascinating about AI is it can adapt to whatever learner you are. If you prefer flashcards, AI can make those. If you want a tutor, AI can walk you through step by step and actually explain those chemistry concepts. But the important thing here is AI is not learning the chemistry with you. Your ability to learn the material and to use AI in the first place to learn the material is dependent on your own agency. Another example, I remember in my Spanish class, our Spanish teacher wanted us not just to read Spanish, but actually to speak it. The problem, none of my family speaks Spanish. So what he recommended is to use the voice mode of ChatGPT, and you can actually have a conversation with it in Spanish. And that was amazing for me. But again, AI isn't learning Spanish for me by any means. It's just giving me tools. It's speaking with me. It's giving me practice tests so I can become a better learner myself. And I know there are some healthy questions about what role AI is going to play in our daily lives and our education. And there are questions that we've probably seen before, like when computers first came to schools, or when they were first wired to internet access. But in all of those cases, we were able to use those tools not to hurt our agency, but to help our agency and to develop us as learners. And so I really just want to thank all of you on the board and Superintendent Becker for just giving us the opportunity as the Design Council to investigate the role of AI, because I think that once we truly know what the tool is and how we can work with a tool to better ourselves, will all of us, students, teachers, parents, and administrators, grow as learners in the future. Thank you.
Good evening. Mr. Sloan, I think that we messed up thinking we could follow the students. So we'll do our best here to follow that right there. But I would have to share that as being part of this design council, it was energizing to be in a room where after 2 decades in education, sometimes you walk into meetings thinking you know what's going to happen, and I think that both of us can say that we were surprised and we were absolutely invigorated by the conversations and the discussions that happened, especially by our students and what they walked in with. But what it made clear through those conversations, through that feedback, and through that statistic that was shared earlier, the 66% of our hiring, right, expect our students to be able to use AI. That was just one of the statistics that were shared. But it made it very clear that as educators, and in our case as site leaders, our role is that we have to lean into this. We have to learn it, and we have to figure out what this actually looks like at school, right? These 6 characteristics, looking at the 3 different areas. It sounds great, but what does it actually look like in the classroom? And maybe even more importantly, what does it look like out of a classroom? Because our students are developing into people, right? Not just students. And so how are we going to make sure that this actually happens in our classrooms and academics and out of our classrooms in athletics and activities? And Mr. Sloan has some ideas to share there.
All right, thank you all. So to kind of go with what Lindsay was saying here, I think this work helped us bring clarity and common language, as you can see, so that when we talk about it at a district level and a site level, there's obviously many words that mean the same thing, but we've chosen certain words and certain language very meticulously, and we can use that trying to build upon that meaning. And that will take time. We will roll it out. We will work with adults in the community to try to make sure everyone understands what you've kind of heard earlier. But I think that clarity, especially when it comes to AI for our staff, is very important. As anything that changes, anything that's new is, what do we do? How do we adapt to this? I went to high school before the internet. And I can't imagine like life without using the internet for something. I started teaching before the smartphone, and like nothing has gone backwards since I've been alive, and it's not going to. So I think all the skills that they discussed were all things that universally we've needed and will need in the future. And it's just how do we now adapt with technology and the way the world is today and the way the world will be. But a lot of that also has to do with adults being involved in that learning, adults modeling that learning, students actually teaching their families who maybe don't have these same experiences and didn't learn these things. And so the whole community grows by this. So one of the focuses they mentioned a little briefly, but this isn't just for the students, this is for adults too. How adults interact with others and the world, and how we interact with our own students. I think that's part of that shared story piece there. And then in the case of the middle piece there with counselors, when we talk to students about school, the focus often is on a content subject matter, on their grade in something, but the reality is we have them for 4 years, and we have an obligation to give them something when they leave for hopefully many, many more years of their life that they can take with them and be successful regardless of what their ambitions are, and take forward those things that they're going to remember much more than a fact in history or a particular book that they read. What do they really take away? And I think that's what we really drill down into, is what are those skills? And then it comes down to, and then how do we adapt those skills to make them future ready, career ready, college ready, just life ready individuals who will be successful. And this kind of sums that up. Thinking for themselves, communicating with courage, acting with integrity, because without these skills, whatever I learned won't be used for good. I think this is like the kind of person we want people to be, the kind of person we want to aspire to be, and I think something that our district can then leave a positive impact that will then benefit the community and ultimately the world as we see them going off and living throughout the world and making that impact. So I'll let Lindsay finish up.
I think that the most exciting part about this is that it's looking toward the future, and it's all of us being able to look toward that future together. So often in education, we look at the past. How did we do on the CASP? How did we do in grades? What was our graduation rate? Those kinds of things. And this is entirely looking at who are we going to be, and that means that we get to kind of choose our own adventure, right? We get to decide ourselves. And so much of this work, the heavy lifting of the work, has been done by this design council. And so now it's very exciting to think about what is it actually going to look like. And to me, like I said, it's inspiring, it's energizing, and I know that our educators, our students, our families across the district feel the same. So thank you all for allowing us to have this time, and thank you, Dr. Karros, for putting it together.
And then I also asked Trustee Franz to share the connection to our Board of Education expectations. First of all, thank you, Trustee Coleman, Trustee Franz, for joining us. But I think, as is your expectations, with everything we do, we must be able to map it back to improving student outcomes for all of our children, but also to ensure that we are meeting your expectations. So, Trustee Franz.
Thank you. And I was grateful to be able to attend 2 of the sessions of the series, and I appreciate all of the conversations I had with the students and teachers. It was remarkable. And I'd like to thank Dr. Karros and the Ed Services team for embracing, first, just the board expectation that we would engage in partnership with our families. And that was evident with how you collected the survey information and included all the stakeholders in the design sessions. And I think by bringing the teachers and the counselors and administrators, and especially the student voice together, we had some rich dialogue. And I want to share just personally what I gained from that. And actually the 2 teachers are over there. In my conversations with them, they shared concerns around just ensuring that students truly master their course content. And I really appreciated you voicing that. And I think that many naturally worry about AI that might replace the authentic learning and might encourage cheating and ultimately hurting our students. And I hope we grant our teachers and our site administrators some grace and time to figure out what these ideas in the portrait actually look like in the classroom. I know we need to find some creative ways to teach critical AI literacy without compromising our rigorous standards in education, and that's, I don't want to speak for everybody, but that's important to us. In a similar vein, I found it interesting that all the students that I spoke with at our table, they all expressed a strong desire to have guidance from the teachers of when they can use AI and when they need to keep it out of their work. And so I think they also recognize it's important to have that authentic learning and so the mastery, but they want to bring in AI. And so it was the teachers expressed it differently, but it's there. And Peyton, last month, she expressed something similar, not even being a part of all of this. And so I think we have an opportunity to help our students thrive in a changing world. We don't know how AI will affect all of our future, or reshape our future jobs. But I personally believe experience, personal knowledge, human skills, and personal agency will always be what sets us apart in life. And several of you alluded to that. And we shouldn't stop the excellent education we're already providing, but we need to leverage artificial intelligence constructively as simply a tool in our students' wheelhouse. Roseville Learners, an embodiment of all the community's vision for its graduates, and I think it's the framework that we can use to prepare our students for life, college, and career, and I look forward to what happens and what all this looks like, so thank you.
Thank you. And that ends our presentation, President Hall.
All right, thank you. That was amazing. I want to talk to all of your parents and know what they're feeding you, what your bedtime was when you were a kid, because you're all just brilliant. And I feel like we should have student speakers at every board meeting. Right? Very good job. And I feel like we gave you some awards and scholarships. Are you a Roseville High student? Yes? Yep. Did you get some awards and scholarships? Yeah, I feel like I saw you multiple times coming up.
If I can brag a little bit.
Okay.
So Dwayne Hawkins is graduating senior, going on. All of these students probably have an average, not probably, I'm certain they have an average of a 4.3 GPA. Okay. But they're athletes. You can tell they're in debate. They're in speech and debate. They're greatly involved and they're leaders in our school. But Dwayne Hawkins is going to university on a full ride on a football scholarship to college in Buffalo, New York. You all heard about JC moving on to UCLA, the future Bruin. And then Sammy is a future business law student going to finish the first year at Sierra College and transfer to UC Berkeley as a law student. And these are our seniors that just graduated. And then our other students are rising seniors who will be Connor's a rising junior, and Arsheen and Atticus are rising seniors who will be in the thick of college applications, which is why we're so glad Counselor Panu has been in conversation and in space with us. So just brilliant children, brilliant families, and we're so proud of our students. But more than anything, we are so lucky to work for our students and our families in Roseville Joint Union High School District.
All right.
I think you need to give a shout out to Connor as well.
Marla, do it. I totally forgot.
I don't know the exact title, but I know he received second place in speech and debate
in the nation
last month, a few weeks ago.
In Washington, D.C.
Yes. What's the exact title? Is it just second place speech and debate national title? I don't know what it's called, but
only in the United States of America.
Okay.
Amazing. Well, thank you for that presentation. That was great. Okay, we are going to move on to...
Can I make a comment?
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I
please,
just feel like
of course.
after that, I have to make a comment. I just thank you for your intense work and your thorough and deep dive. It makes me feel confident in our district moving forward. It's not a haphazard move forward. It's a very thoughtful and intentional move forward. I really appreciate the characteristics that you have defined, and your explaining them tonight to me was really, really helpful. Just on a personal level, honestly, for me, I really appreciated that. I was able to attend just one of your sessions, and I really learned a lot, and I actually learned a lot about what I don't know, and went home and tried to kind of explain it and said, never mind, I don't know how to explain this to you guys, but I think the future, not only in developing the characteristics that you're talking about, but in working with AI, it's going to be very challenging. It'll be challenging for teachers and administrators that have to adjust how their classrooms work. And it's also going to be really exciting to see how it moves forward. And I actually, from the one session that I was able to attend, as you heard, I had a wedding last week, and I thought I needed to come up with a seating arrangement for the wedding dinner. And I was working on Google Sheets. I am not good at spreadsheets. My husband is a whiz, but I'm not good at it. And I thought, you know what? We did this little activity in this session, and so I think I did it in Gemini, I think is what I did it in. And I just started using, I just realized from the session it's so much deeper than I know. It's not just typing into ChatGPT, but it's knowing what questions to put in there. And it eventually came up with this spreadsheet with this drop-down menu. So if I put someone in this seat, it didn't come up again for this seat. And everyone had a wonderful time at the dinner. So it worked. But I was inspired by that, and just really appreciate and thank you, Superintendent Becker, for leading and supporting this. And I really am looking forward to seeing how this plays out in our district.
But you used your agency to ensure that people who weren't supposed to be sitting next to each
Absolutely.
other should be, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So again, I can't say enough how great that was. And for those of you who are still going to be with us as juniors, and come to our board meetings. We want to hear from you. Pay attention when it's on our agendas. Use your agency that way, because we do value your voice and want to keep hearing from you. So, and good luck to you, all those of you who are moving on to great things. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very exciting futures ahead. And definitely come back. We love it when students come and give public comment and weigh in on all of the surveys. So thank you again. And we will move on to, I think we're on 5.3 now, our LCAP local indicators, which is probably also, oh, no, you're coming tonight. All right.
Okay, now it's on.
Bye.
Thanks, students. Yeah, I'm glad Lindsay said it, because I was thinking the whole time when Connor and Sammy and everybody was speaking, like, oh, I get to follow up afterwards.
Yeah.
This is not going to be great, because this is not that exciting what I'm going to present on right now. So I'm going to be very brief. So I'm up here tonight just to report on our local reflection for the self-indicators. And so the good thing to report is that we're actually doing very well, as we mentioned last board meeting with the LCAP. And so this is just another way to self-evaluate how you're performing as a school district. And so why am I here tonight? So I'll just give you the legal framing first. Is state law requires the district to report progress on its 5 local indicators at the same public meeting in which the LCAP is adopted. So that's the legal requirement. That's why we're doing this tonight. In regards to how we reported on our 5 different state priorities, we use the same partners. So our LCAP surveys, our meetings, obviously even those students right there, we had a bunch of different stakeholders give us feedback. So in regards to the actual 5 indicators itself, the 5 priorities, the first one is teachers, materials, and facilities. So specifically, every student has the appropriately assigned teachers, access to standards aligned instructional materials, and safe, clean, and functional school facilities. Happy to report, almost 93% of our teachers are fully credentialed. All students have access to instructional materials, and all of our facilities are in a good state. In regards to priority number 2, it's implementation of academic state standards. So teachers have the professional learning materials and support to teach California's academic standards in every content area. 5 was the highest on 1 to 5 scale. We had a lot of 5s and 4s and very few 3s and 2s in our self-reflection. Is in regards to priority number 3, parent and family engagement. Schools build trusting relationships with families, partner with them on student outcomes, and seek their input in decision making. We're on a 5-point scale again, lots of 4s, lots of 5s, so doing really well in that category. And in regards to the priority number 6, the school climate, and that is students experience safe, supportive, and connected schools. Specifically, we leaned on the California Healthy Kids Survey, Great feedback from our students, and so doing very well in that category too as well. And then in regards to the last one is priority number 7, which is access to a broad course of study, which all students, including unduplicated pupils and students with exceptional needs, can access a full range of courses leading to graduation in college and career readiness. Happy to report 100% of our students are enrolled in a pathway towards graduation, and 100% of students are enrolled towards being on the college and career preparedness trajectory. It's just, again, if they take advantage of all those different opportunities. So any questions for me? I told you I'd be very brief. Okay.
Any questions? No, I don't think so. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Item 5.4, staff comments. Is that supposed to be right there?
Well, you removed that whole section, so yes, it goes with it, and that's fine.
Got it. Okay, no worries. Any staff comments? Okay. I'm just not used to seeing it right there. Okay, item 6 is our public hearing and consideration of resolution number 2608, approving an increase in level 1 statutory school facility fees.
Yes. Hi,
Mr.
thank you.
Landon. All
Yeah,
right.
it kind of looks a little weird today because we do have that public hearing, but we also have the action item later. That is the justification fee study. So the way it works in the state of California is every few years, the developer fees can go up. These are the fees that when people sell homes that they pay to the school district. And so the minimum amount gets updated, but we're required to do a justification study, essentially showing that we need the fees to build the schools, to house the students that come from the houses that are being built. So without going into too much detail, would recommend we have a public hearing to solicit any public input, and then staff recommends approval of the increase in the statutory fees.
Okay. Any questions on that from anyone at this?
I just have a quick question. Are our feeder districts boards also doing the same public?
Yes, all districts
Hearings,
throughout
okay.
California. Now, we don't have a ton that fall under the level 1 fees. These are usually small, because a lot of ours do mutual benefit agreements, which are separate. These are the other homes or smaller developments that don't fall under those mutual benefit agreements.
Because I saw that we do split the fees with them, so that's why I was
Yes.
wondering. So they're going through this.
They're going through the same
also.
process, and probably all districts in California are going through it over these next few months, if they haven't done it already.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So at this time, is there anyone here for public comment on this topic? Seeing none, and I just think we need a motion. Yeah, I think we need. I do think we need a. Yep. No one for public comment, but then we need a motion to close.
I'll make a motion to close.
Okay, so a roll call vote on this one, but it's an action item? We roll call vote it to close the public hearing? Correct. Okay. Trustee Schutz? Aye. Coleman?
Yes.
Hall, yes. Franz?
Yes.
Pete Constant? I'm not sure if he's still on.
Yes.
Okay. Fabulous. We got you. All right. 5-0 on that.
A voice from the heavens.
Right?
Yes.
I know. I just wasn't sure if he could still hear us. All right, we are going to move on to our action items. So 7.1, approval of our LCAP plan.
Yes, thank you, President Hall. So this evening, we are seeking Board of Education's action and approval of our LCAP. As you will recall, previously you held a public hearing for our LCAP, and since then we have not received any public comments that have been submitted digitally or in person. We wanted to report that to you, and so we are recommending the approval of our LCAP this evening so that we can move forward with submitting it to our County Office of Education.
Okay. Any questions?
No, I'll move to approve the local control accountability plan.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and we're going to go roll call vote again. Trustee
Yes.
Schutz, Coleman?
Yes.
Hall, yes. Franz?
Yes.
Constant?
Yes.
Right, motion carries 5-0. And thank you for all of your work on that. I know it just feels like we fly right through it. Item 7.2, our budget adoption. We get Lauren.
I'm back.
Okay.
I forget. I can lower this, right? Yes, you have to open that. It's a little tall for me. There we go. Got it. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. It's a little bit better. There we go.
Yay.
Better.
You're set.
All right, so good evening, board. Since we last met, we have been able to make all those changes that we presented at the public hearing for the May revise, based on all those significant impacts that we discussed. Overall, there was positive results, increasing our overall ending fund balance for 26-27 by almost $2 million. So positive impacts from all those changes. No other changes were made to the adopted budget that we presented in the board packet. So with that, we would like to recommend that the board approves our adopted budget.
All right, excellent. Questions, motions?
I'll move to adopt the fiscal year 26-27 budget.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and we'll go roll call vote again. Trustee Schutz?
Yes.
Coleman?
Yes.
Hall, yes. Franz?
Yes.
Pete Constant?
Yes.
All right, motion carries 5-0. You always have a dramatic pause, Pete. Fills the room with suspense. Okay, item 7.3, recertify the AB 1200 disclosure of collective bargaining agreements with RCA, CSA,
Yes.
and non-represented groups.
Yes,
All right.
so this is the increase to salary based on the May revise and the updated numbers, where we're proposing to increase the salary compensation for all employees by additional 2%, as well as a $2,000 one-time stipend. And we've already completed the conversations with both the unions and got their support to make this increase. And then also, you'll notice that for the superintendent, assistant superintendent contracts, there's no proposal to increase the salary as they're tied to the CPI index, except the recommendation is to include the $2,000 one-time stipend for those on those contracts. But wanted to make sure that was clearly identified, and staff recommends the approval of these updated AB 1200 disclosures.
All right, very good. Any questions on this item?
No, but the recommendation is very long, so I'm just going to move to approve the recommended action in 7.3.
I'll second.
All right, sounds good. We have a motion and a second, and we'll go down the line again. Trustee Schutz?
Yes.
Coleman?
Yes.
Hall, yes. Franz?
Yes.
And Pete Constant?
Yes.
All right, motion carries 5-0. And we are going to go on to item 7.4, consideration of fee study justifying an increase in level 1 statutory school facility fees.
Yes, this is similar to what I talked about earlier, but this is the actual acceptance of the official justification study, and staff recommends the approval of this document.
All right, any questions on this item? Seeing none, anyone have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the school mitigation fee justification study.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. We'll go down the row. Trustee Schutz?
Yes.
Coleman?
Yes.
Hall, yes. Franz?
Yes.
Constant?
Yes.
All right. And then item 7.5, authorization to utilize a lease back.
Yes, thank you. We've started the design process for both Oakmont High School as well as the West Park High School projects. There are a few different delivery methods for construction projects that are commonly used in California. The two main ones we've used have been direct hard bid contracts as well as the lease-leaseback contracts. And so I wanted to kind of go over some of those. We also have an attorney, Jennifer Dower, who's been very helpful with putting these documents together to make sure they follow all the legal requirements. For both the West Park High School and Oakmont High School projects, similar to what we did with this district office building, the projects at Roseville High School, when we have really large projects, we like to do a lease-leaseback. And the reason for that is we like to get a contractor and a lease-leaseback provider on board early. That helps in the design process, that it provides a much more collaborative environment, as opposed to some projects we go hard bid. We fully complete the design, and then we go hard bid and we get a contractor with the lowest per bidder. Sometimes it's not a great relationship. Sometimes they can be very aggressive with change orders. And there's errors in the design documents that don't get noticed because they don't get involved until later in the process. So these large projects, we've had a lot of success with lease-leaseback. And so I put a bunch more information. I kind of went over just the brief summary. But both Scott Davis and I would like to use this method for these two projects. One of the key parts, and I put in there an exhibit of what it actually looks like. It is not it is still a very, very thorough process where we look at not just the cost, but we look at what they call best value. And so we're looking at how many similar projects have you built? What experience have you done? And it's still a very open process where when subcontractor bids come in, we have a process where we can, collaborate on the work they provided, if it's a good fit for our district, and it's a much more collaborative approach. So we've had good success with these lease-leaseback contracts, but I wanted to, before we went out and did an RFP, wanted to discuss with the board, see if you had any questions or concerns before we moved forward with these two projects.
All right, very good. That's exciting. Things are happening. Any questions?
Do you have any? I just was curious. I understand it. It could actually save time on the back end by having these things worked out in the beginning. Is that tend to be how it's played out with our latest projects around LOB versus the uncertainty that could come with a hard bid kind of project where you find defects or something later that delays opening, right?
Yeah, it's definitely, we've had really good success with some hard bid projects, but it's typically been more simple projects, like a roofing. And so as the more complex they get and the larger, I think we've seen a lot more benefit from the lease-leaseback.
Well, I appreciate you laying it out for the different methods. That's helpful.
Well, I'll make a motion that we authorize the use of the lease-leaseback.
I'll second.
All right, a motion and a second on the floor. We'll go down the row. Trustee Schutz.
Yes.
Coleman.
Yes.
Hall, yes. Franz.
Yes.
And Constant.
I will say yes, and I'm also going to sign off because it's 11:30 here, so good night.
All right, good night. Thanks for joining us. Okay, I think we are at the end here, guys. So our Horizon report, we have our pending agenda items on a separate sheet over here. And I think, yeah.
I do need to say that on this Horizon report, it says the next meeting was July 21st. It's July 28th.
Okay, so this one that's on the paper is correct? Yep, 7/28. Okay. Very good. Well, with that, we just need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
And since Pete's off the call, can we just do an all those in favor say aye?
I think so.
Aye. We're done with the roll call. All right.